Welcome to the InfoSec Insider podcast, brought to you by URM, the UK's leading information and cybersecurity specialists.
My name's Annie and welcome to the InfoSec Insider Talk Cyber podcast. Today, Lauren Gotting, Sales Director at URM, and Jamie Levers, Senior Security Consultant at URM, discuss key aspects of the Cyber Essentials scheme, with a particular focus on the Danzell questionnaire. They'll explain exactly what assessors look for, where organisations commonly fall short, and how to position your submission for a successful outcome. Drawing on his experience of conducting Cyber Essentials assessments, Jamie shares practical insights and lessons learned from real-world engagements to help organisations navigate the certification process with confidence. This discussion is based on URM's webinar, Cyber Essentials 2026 Lessons Learned from Real Assessments, which was delivered in July 2026. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that we run an extensive programme of webinars covering a wide range of cybersecurity and information security topics. To explore upcoming events and access our webinar library, please visit urmconsulting.com/events. Now, let's hear from Lauren and Jamie.
Before we dive into what we've learned over the 3 months, you're right just to give everyone listening a bit of an overview of the Cyber Essentials scheme itself, how it came about?
Yeah, so like it says there, the Cyber Essentials is a government-backed scheme. NCSC state all the requirements, and it's run by IASME, who are the qualification body. If you think of that as an umbrella, NCSC are very much at the top as the overarching organisation. They feed down to IASME, and then IASME feed down to certification bodies like URM.
So, Jamie, when these requirements change, been pretty much annually. So that doesn't come from us, that comes from the NCSC, IASME, a combination of both?
Combination of both, yeah. IASME administer the scheme, but everything within the scheme has to be signed off by NCSC.
Okay, so as a certification body, we can't change the requirements.
It's not up to us. We're just here to check you're following the requirements. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and so the scheme covers 5 technical control areas. At a bit of a high level, what control areas are they?
Starting off with firewalls. This is just to ensure that all devices are running firewalls and act as a first kind of line of defense against potential threats. Secure configuration, making sure your devices are configured correctly. And again, like it says, minimizing the attack surface. So you're not leaving ports open on your firewall, you've configured it correctly, that kind of thing. And the same for user access control. Again, if you're just spinning up accounts and giving them to anybody, then it increases your attack surface. You want to be managing your who can access your organizational data, and that's what user access control is. Malware protection, if something should get through the firewall, then you have a second line of defense against malware and potential vulnerabilities. And then lastly, security update management, patching, which is a big one. So for Cyber Essentials, you are required to ensure that all high risk and critical patches and vulnerability fixes are applied within 14 days.
Excellent. Yeah, I know patching's a big one. We'll probably cover that off in more detail. Within the questionnaire, obviously there's 5 control areas. Are people likely to see 10 questions on firewalls, 10 questions on secure config?
When people fill out the questionnaire, they will notice it's very much split into sections. There is a section on firewalls, a section on user access control, a section on patching, etc. So yeah, you will notice the breakdown when you answer the question.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, what's the big differences then?
The big difference is the Cyber Essentials VSA or SAQ, so Verified Self-Assessment or Self-Assessment Questionnaire, however you want to term it. It's effectively, you're verifying yourself. What you fill out in that questionnaire is signed off at board level to confirm it's correct, and you're very much verifying that you are following the controls of Cyber Essentials. And then moving on to the CE Plus, the CE Plus is it's a technical verification of what you stated in the questionnaire. So we're going to come in and we're going to check that what you've stated in the questionnaire is accurate. We're going to do some scanning internally, externally, and we're going to confirm that you've got malware protections in place, etc.
Okay, brilliant. So Cyber Essentials Plus is harder to achieve, would you say?
In theory, if you can pass the questionnaire, then you should have no problem passing the Cyber Essentials Plus assessment.
Okay, so if you're actually doing living and breathing everything you say on your Cyber Essentials questionnaire, then Cyber Essentials Plus is a bit of a breeze.
In theory, yes.
In theory,
In theory, yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I know it doesn't work like that, and when it comes to some plus assessments, but essentially there's no additional requirements. You don't have to be doing anything different as long as what you've stated on your Cyber Essentials is 100% accurate and you're following it to the letter.
To the letter, yep, exactly that.
Okay, that's good. That's reassuring, I'm sure. Excellent. So obviously we've got some experience with Danzell now as a question set. What's new from your perspective?
So at a high level, obviously the documentation has changed slightly. So there's a new requirements for infrastructure set. There's a new questionnaire. Mainly sections 1 and 2 have changed. There's a new speculative test document for how C pluses are conducted. And obviously a new marking guide for assessors to go with the Danzell set.
So Jamie, the document you referred to there about how C plus assessments are conducted, is that public? Is that a public document?
Yep, that's available on the IASME website.
Okay, perfect. The marking guidelines are not, though, they are assessors only.
So the marking guide is assessors only.
Yep.
The speculative testing for CE plus and the requirements for infrastructure document, they are both public and available through the NCSC website.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so diving into some more details then. I know we've mentioned there's a new, Danzell is the new question set. What changes have been made?
Again, at a high level,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously cloud services this year, there's a formal definition. There's been a lot of confusion about what constitutes a cloud service, what's just a web portal, etc. Is it hosting organizational data? Isn't it? So there's a formal definition now for cloud services. And again, that ties in cloud services with the mandatory MFA. So if MFA is available natively or through an identity provider, it must be enabled. Then you've got the automatic failure questions. So these are the patching questions. So if you are not patching within 14 days, that is an automatic fail now. There's stricter scoping requirements with regard to if you're part of a group entity, if you can certify as a whole organization. If you can't, there's also stricter scoping with regards to, so test and development networks need to be excluded now.
But sorry, Jamie, I've had quite a few queries over the last couple of weeks around this point, test and develop. What if a client wants to include their test and dev network and it meets the requirements?
The guidance from IASME is that test and development networks must be excluded. So any test and development network, if you're developing some sort of software, if you have, say, like security testing tools, so for penetration testing, you're running Kali Linux, Parrot, some sort of pen testing distro, that has to be excluded.
And with that then, even if a client wanted to include that, are they still able to tick whole organization, or now anyone that has a test and dev network can just no way certify their whole business?
In theory, if your test and development network had no access to organizational data and no access to the internet, then it wouldn't be considered in scope for Cyber Essentials. However, obviously, if you're developing a software application, that's organizational data. So it's very hard for a test and development network not to access organizational data. And then once it hits that requirement or it has access to the internet, it's automatically in scope and must be excluded from scope via the scoping statement.
Right, okay, it's an interesting one, that. Like I said, I've got a lot of clients that's been questioning that.
It's been a big bone of contention for the first 3 months of Danzell, shall we say.
All right. Okay. So web applications, what changes are being made there?
No real changes to web applications. It's more guidance around. Previously, we were using kind of the OWASP top 10 as guidance. There's now specific UK-based frameworks for any organizations that are building web applications. And again, it's not a requirement. It's a framework that you're advised to follow.
Okay, but that's not actually part of a questionnaire response.
It's not, no.
Right. Okay.
And then user access control, again, tightening up all the time around user access control, who has access to your organizational data. The guidance on backups remains largely unchanged. There's just slightly more emphasis on it now. It's been moved to the very top of the requirements for infrastructure document to kind of put an emphasis on organizations should be backing up all of their information. And probably one of the bigger ones for a lot of organizations, no major non-compliances for CE+. So moving forward now, it's kind of always been implied, but never really enforced, but it is now. If you have any major non-compliances in your questionnaire, you cannot move forward for and conduct a CE+ assessment.
Okay, so they've got to have a clean bill of health.
Oh, yes.
Essentials. Okay. Jamie, I know you can't see into the future. I know you don't make the requirements, but the guidance on backups, we've been highlighting backups for a long time. Do you think it's likely that in some form backups will have more of a part in Cyber Essentials in the future at some point?
Yeah, all organizations should be backing up their data and have reliable backups that they can call on should anything happen. Will it become part of Cyber Essentials? Cyber Essentials seems to continually be evolving, maybe slightly losing the essentials part as it evolves. But yeah, it's very possible that it will be.
Yeah, because they've been advising on it for a long time, but not questioning people on it. It's like, will that come in? Okay, and on here, so cloud. Am I right in thinking cloud services ties in with the mandatory MFA? So this MFA must be enabled on cloud services. Is that?
If MFA is available, whether that's natively and the cloud service provides it, or if you can enable SSO, SAML, something like that through an identity provider like Microsoft or Google, then it has to be enabled. So even if you're required to pay for MFA, it's now a requirement that you do.
But during the plus, obviously with the cloud services definition now, that's sort of opened it up quite a bit, hasn't it, to social media accounts, things like that. When it comes to the plus and you're checking the MFA on those cloud services, is that extending assessment times? Is that causing people? Has that caused people problems?
Not that we've noticed so far. We've always been quite thorough with testing for admin and standard user accounts for cloud MFA. So I think anyone that's done a CE+ assessment with us won't necessarily notice any time increase.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Jamie. That's really useful. So, as we've conducted a number of assessments, what lessons have we learned as an assessment body that we can sort of pass over to applicants?
So probably one of the big ones is the scoping the assessment correctly. We've had a number of organizations that maybe thought something could be out of scope when it couldn't, or maybe they've just missed something on their questionnaire. If the assessment isn't scoped correctly and you move on to CE+, when we come to conduct the technical scope verification, if we see something that doesn't add up, you'll have to go back and redo the Cyber Essentials questionnaire so that it does match up. So scoping the assessment is essential. And again, like you said, many people finding this out with excluding test and development networks. Maybe they're part of a group and they've previously done whole organization, but now they can't because of the statements for designating who can and who can't be whole organization. That ties in quite nicely with the next point. So if you're not doing whole organization, segregation has to be network based, and that is VLAN or firewall, so layer 2 or layer 3 of the OSI model. You cannot say, oh, do you know what, I'm going to do my whole organization, but I just want to exclude the developers. It has to be network based, so your development team would have to all be on the development network that is segregated from the rest of your network by VLAN or firewall. Again, you cannot say, I don't know, I just want to exclude the finance team. So if you're all working in the same office, you all connect to the same Wi-Fi point, you can't say, I'm just going to do these devices and not those devices. The scope of the assessment has to be network based. And again, probably all these points tying together nicely. You need to make sure devices in scope are accurately declared. We've come across quite a few assessments now where we come to conduct the technical scope verification, and we look at RMM agents or say like Intune or however you're managing your assets, and there may be 50 extra mobile devices because you thought BYOD was out of scope or something similar to that. So you need to make sure all of the devices that are in scope of the assessment are declared in the questionnaire. And as always, cloud services, they cannot be excluded from scope. They've never been able to be excluded from scope. So if you have a cloud service and it stores or processes organizational data, then it is in scope.
Thank you. Is pricing for Cyber Essentials based on group numbers or the scope numbers?
It's the size of your legal entity. So if your organization is, say, 50 people, but you're only putting 10 devices in scope, you must certify to the 50 size organization, the 50 people size organization.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. From sort of the experience then across the assessing team, what are successful applicants doing that unsuccessful applicants may not be doing?
They recognise that the scheme evolves and that the answers evolve with it. So obviously the Cyber Essentials has changed quite a bit, certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, but then going back to how it was 10 years ago, the scheme has evolved massively. So successful applicants understand that the scheme evolves, and they evolve their answers to make them compliant.
I think on that point, Jamie, as well, is yes, the scheme evolves, and that's all publicly public knowledge and publicly shared, but often the actual assessing guidelines evolve as well, hey, more than once a year in terms of assessing and the requirements you're given from IASME and NC. Is that fair? Is that monthly? You get told, okay, we need to start marking this like this, or?
Again, it's a constant evolution. So it's constantly evolving and constantly changing, obviously in line with real world IT. And so just because a question was answered or an answer for a question was compliant 6 months ago, it may not be compliant now. And that probably ties in nicely with the second bullet point there, that responses previously accepted may no longer meet current expectations or requirements. Again, the scheme evolves, the assessor guidance evolves. It's not static, it's fluid, it's constantly changing. And then kind of on trend for now is people using AI to answer questions. It's very easy to notice people who have used AI to answer questions because a lot of the time they may not be relevant. So certainly for the smaller organizations, if they are providing AI answers, AI may give like an enterprise level answer. So although you can use AI to generate your answers, you need to check that they are accurate and 100% like compliant to your organization, and that is what you actually do, or the services that it references are what the services you actually use.
Off the top of your head, do you have any sort of examples, or is there any one particular answer you've read that sticks with you as being AI generated?
Yeah, probably the processes for user access control. So how you generate user accounts. People who use AI to generate those, it may include a lot of services that they don't necessarily use, or certainly for smaller organizations that AI may say, oh, we go through the process of approving it with these people, and it will list 5 or 6 people when, you know, the applicant is maybe 4 people or 10 people in size. So you can't have that many people at the top level to kind of go through. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot that stick out where it's this goes through our IT department, and certainly the smaller organizations, maybe they don't have an IT department, or it's one person. So yeah, it's just about making sure the answers are accurate to your organization.
And appropriate as well, because you'll be checking. You'll be checking.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jamie. Okay, so across the team, also we've been observing successful applicants. What else are they doing? What else are they shining on?
So the big one is proactive patch management. So you need to understand that you cannot rely just on auto patching. You know, Windows update fails sometimes, applications don't update sometimes. There's many reasons why auto updates don't work. You should have auto updates turned on, but you need to be checking that things are being updated. So you should also have a manual process for confirming that your patching is being carried out correctly. And also, it's not just the devices that people use, it's firmware on routers. It's the mobile devices. A common one we come across is people not updating mobile devices. So people will be running OS patches from maybe 6 months ago on their mobile devices because they're not being checked that they are updated, because obviously that is very much down to the end user if organizations don't have an MDM. So yeah, you need a bona fide way of confirming that patches are being applied across your entire IT estate.
Jamie, why is this more important than ever around patch management? Why is patching so important with the new Danzell set?
So with the new Danzell set, you have the 2 sample kind of system in place now. So when you first on the first day of your C+ assessment, you will be given a vulnerability assessment report of the first sample set that was selected. If there's any vulnerabilities that fit the Cyber Essentials threat model, so CVSS 7 or above, and the patch has been released more than 14 days previously, if that's picked up, then you're going to have to do a second sample set. And if that second sample set has any vulnerabilities that match the first set, then you're going to get your CE revoked.
Okay, so that's quite significant. You know, one, having the Cyber Essentials revoked, but also, you know, there's some organisations out there with diverse IT estates, and we might be sampling 10, 15 machines, right? So that'll be a fresh 10, 15 machines for the patch management check.
Yep. So the second sample set will be a complete mirror or replication of the first, shall we say. So if you've got 20 devices in your first sample set, it would only take one of those devices to fail, and you would have another 20 devices to sample. Okay.
And with that, is that just a vulnerability scan though? You don't need to do all the manual checks on those sample devices?
Providing you pass the manual the device checks, so if it's purely the authenticated vulnerability scan that fails, then it will just be a second authenticated vulnerability scan on the next sample.
Okay, and if, again, sorry, I know I've had loads of conversations with clients around this particular change over the last couple of months, and if the second sample scan doesn't have the old vulnerabilities but fresh vulnerabilities, what happens then?
They will pass and they will get an advisory.
Okay.
However, the expectation will still be that they fix those vulnerabilities across their entire estate, because what you will start seeing is a pattern. So the next time they do CE plus the following year, if the vulnerabilities found in that second sample are still present, it will be obvious that they're not applying the patching across their whole IT estate.
Yeah, and I suppose this feeds back into the cyber. If you're doing everything you say you're doing on your cyber essentials plus should be fairly straightforward because you're ticking that box. So every cyber essentials applicant is saying they update and they patch their machines regularly.
And a board member is attesting to it. I think significantly for us over the past year, probably less than 2% of people pass the vulnerability assessment first time, and that is generally the organizations that have their own Qualys, Nessus. However, they do their own vulnerability scanning. So in theory, that would be 98% of our applicants would require a second sample. So quite a significant chunk would be requiring a second sample and at threat of having their CE revoked.
Yeah, and also the time and effort though, because we had to sample another 15, 20 devices. The Qualys agent's going to have to be installed.
Yeah, exactly. Time and effort on both sides, the applicant and the assessing body.
Okay, right, that's a biggie. Okay, thank you, Jamie. So, okay, how then, from what we've learned over the last few months, how could an organisation sort of prepare, ensure a smooth certification or recertification?
The key thing is to not just read the requirements for infrastructure. That document is what Cyber Essentials is based on. You need to read it, you need to understand it, and you need to cross-reference it with your own IT infrastructure, your estate, and understand what you're scoping and what you're certifying. If you can do that, then you'll generally be successful. Ensure your asset management is up to date. I've lost count of the amount of times we conduct a technical scope verification, and we may look and there's maybe devices that haven't checked into certain services for months or years. So you need to be constantly on top of your asset management, making sure everything is up to date, all your documentation, any services you're using, etc. And again, the big one, adopt proactive patch management. Make sure you're checking, make sure you know that patches are being rolled out across your whole IT estate.
Jamie, and some of the common issues, pitfalls that you've come up against?
Probably the big one, and they go hand in hand, is incorrect scope and devices not declared. So entities that are maybe part of a group that haven't understood that they can't certify as whole organization because they have shared infrastructure or shared oversight and governance. Going back to the network example, companies trying to exclude devices rather than networks. You need to make sure the scope is correct. And that ties in with the devices not declared. If there is a massive scope change and we find devices not declared during the TSV, you're going to have to redo your questionnaire again.
And the TSV then as well? So if they read them the questionnaire, then you'd have to engage again and do the TSV again?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You'd almost be starting from scratch to catch up and make the scope accurate.
Yep.
Ensure you're patching within 14 days. We keep beating this drum. Cyber Essentials, you have to be applying high risk and critical security updates and vulnerability fixes within 14 days of release. And the last one, AI answers. If you're going to use AI to generate answers, ensure they are correct and accurate for your organization.
Obviously, you've added AI in here, but also checking that your answers align within the questionnaire as well. So if you say you're using something and then further down there's contradicting answers, are you still seeing much of that?
A fair bit, yeah. Not just with AI generated answers, but again, people might forget to list something in cloud services, and then they'll say, "Oh, we're using this cloud service to do this" later on in the questionnaire. So things like that will always be picked up.
Yeah, but is that still an issue? Do you think? Just something to check.
Yeah. Again, it's just just about being accurate and making sure your answers are 100% what your organisation is doing and using.
During the TSV, do you confirm cloud services that are in scope?
We do check the cloud services. However, cloud services very much down to the applicant to declare. if a cloud service isn't stated in the questionnaire, it's hard for, unless people log into, say, like Microsoft 365 and we see that and they haven't stated it, it's hard to know if they're using a cloud service. But again, this is where it comes back to someone in your organization is attesting that your information is correct. And hopefully something, it never does, but if something should go wrong, there's potential for it to impact your insurance, your liability, etc. So you need to make sure it's all accurate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. So things to do. What should people be doing?
Yeah, right at the top, patching as always. Yeah. Like we said, 98% of applicants we've seen over the last year have had to remediate issues that were found during the vulnerability assessment. Numerous organizations have had to have that a couple of times. So in theory, that would be probably 50% of organizations would technically have failed had it been on the Danzell scheme. So this is where it's really important to make sure you are patching, you are updating. Vulnerability production has gone from days to hours now. So you need to make sure you are up to date and applying your patches. Again, enforce MFA. It's not a silver bullet, but it does help to strengthen it provides security in depth or defense in depth. And where you can implement MFA, you should. People will moan about MFA because it's maybe not coherent, it's not user friendly, but at the end of the day, the benefits more than outweigh the nuisance. Yeah, the nuisance of it. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Improve your asset management. Like we said, your asset management needs to be up to date. You can't be having devices still listed that maybe went to scrap 3 months ago and things like that. So again, you need to make sure your asset management is up to date. You don't have the shadow IT elements, and you know what everything is and where everything is. And as we always say, implement reliable backups. Your organization should always be backing up data.
I think that falls more in line with nowadays. It's probably not when you get attacked. It's not if you get attacked, it's when you get attacked, and
yep.
Backups will support a recovery process. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No organization is too small to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a presence on the internet, you're a target.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's a lot of supply chain attacks as well, and they put typically SMEs,
Yep.
supplying larger businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Look at all the incidents from last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Jamie, so from your perspective, from a certification body's perspective, obviously we said a lot about what to do, right? How to do this then? What are the steps? What steps should people be taking, whether it's research or fresh certification?
Before you start your assessment, you need to know your IT estate. You need to know, like I said, what everything is, where everything is, and be able to account for it all. This is going to help you in the scoping element of the questionnaire. You have to have an accurate grasp on your IT estate. From there, you can scope the assessment. If you're doing whole organization, great. It's recommended that you do whole organization, but obviously we understand that with the new requirements, people do have test and development networks, so they'll need to be excluded. And again, if you are going to put exclusions in, make sure you scope it correctly. Make sure you set up a VLAN or firewall, and exclusions are network based. Make sure the questionnaire is 100% accurate. Make sure all your answers are relevant to your organization, who you are, where you are, what you're using, what you're doing, etc. You should know what to expect from the CE+ assessment, and this ties in with the be organized part at the end. Part of the CE+ assessment is that we need to do manual device checks. So if we've asked for 10 samples, ensure that the users of those 10 samples are available. It's no good we get to the time when we're supposed to do the end user device checks, and then it's, they've got a meeting, they'll be back in half an hour, because the time is gone. Then we're going to have to come back to that possibly at another date and at more cost. So again, this goes back to the start with the CE+ testing document. Everything is detailed in there, and again, if you're unsure of any parts, you can always ask us.
Yeah, and we send a lot of information out around the steps and what to expect.
Yeah.
And we think we're a friendly bunch as well, so you can always ask us a question. Yeah, we try our best, but as a certification body, we try and be sensible with time we allow for assessments, but that's based on the assessment running smoothly and clients being ready for it, right?
Yeah.
Jamie, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I know you could be busy with a Cyber Essentials Plus assessment as we speak, but you're here with me. And to everyone that's attended today, thank you for your time. I really hope you enjoyed it and took away some useful pointers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the InfoSec Insider Talk Cyber podcast. If you would like to receive the slide deck for this webinar, please get in touch with us at webinars@urmconsulting.com. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the InfoSec Insider podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for future episodes. You can listen to the InfoSec Insider podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Podbean, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening to URM's InfoSec Insider podcast. For more information, visit our website at urmconsulting.com.